spoke to Sean, he says he doesn't think that'll be a problem, so.
Yeah. All right, should we get going?
Ready to go, same on time.
All right. Let me just shut off my ringer here. Okay, everyone ready? Okay, Conservation Commission meeting, October 23rd, 2018. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any discussion to start?
I have just quickly a couple of things for the board members. At the last meeting, we discussed getting in touch with Jen Shepherd from DEP in respect to some of the Dunham's Brook and the Winfield Stream concerns we've had with high coliform counts from the Division of Marine Fisheries. I had a conference call with her, Jen, and John Hobel from Mass DEP. We discussed the property in general in respect to the farm area. Identified that the property was being considered for APR application. So they and I were under the agreement that they're going to contact the NRCS service to inquire about getting a farm management plan drawn up, which is needed for the APR, and letting them know of the concerns and the testing information that we currently have to date, so that maybe they can aid in some sort of method to hopefully eliminate or treat or something along those lines in that management plan. So that's something to work towards in the couple coming months to see where we end up with that. The other thing I got is I do have a scheduled site visit finally with the Brian Corey property across the street here on Main Road. If anybody wishes to attend, it's at 10:30 tomorrow. That site visit is for the review of the disturbance that they initiated for the well installation in a wetland. In my opinion, there's more disturbance than what was permitted. Things don't quite look the same as the plan of record, and we asked that they come because a third well was installed that I don't seem it reflects that on the plan. So that is basically what that is for tomorrow at 10:30. So we'll probably meet right there at the field on Main Road next to Partners. So if anybody, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So septic repairs, Clay Dennis, 14 Brookwood Drive.
He's not here, but I am. I'm his wife.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine.
Excellent. Thank you, Wendy. All right.
Couple months ago.
We just having all the fun.
This is a septic repair that, I guess it kind of fell through the cracks. Got Board of Health approval, and before the Dennisons purchased it, they were told that it was all set, and it turns out they hadn't been through conservation yet. So we're here to go through conservation. I guess they're anxious to get going on the installation of this repair. A failed leaching pit, if I remember correctly. But whatever it was in the water table. This is a plan by ABT Associates, and for the septic repair. The well location, the size of the lot, 102 by 199 feet. The well location forced the septic system to be closer to wetlands than we would like to see. Chris was just talking about wetlands in Brookwood. So we've got a leaching area 42 feet from wetlands at the closest point, erosion control to prevent erosion during construction impacting the wetlands. I did send a complimentary copy to Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program because it's right on the border of habitat area, and they came back with a negative determination. We do have a DEP number, SE802390, And given that we need to prioritize protection of the drinking water supply, that forces us to put the septic system where it is. For the existing 3-bedroom residents, no increase in flow. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members, this is Clay Dennis, 14 Brookwood Drive. This is a notice of intent application. Carl Bevilacqua, AVT Associates drew the plan, and Wendy Henderson is here presenting it. The report date actually is August 31st, 2018, when this was applied for. File number was issued SG 802390. This does have Board of Health approval. Description of the work: the new owner of the property has filed a notice of intent to construct a septic system leaching field within 42 feet of the bordering vegetated wetland. Wetland flags numbers 1 through 3 were accurately shown. The work is within the rear portion of the property, and as I was mentioning to the members, it's actually within the old area of the previous septic in respect to what is there. So the area requires some trees to be removed to expand the size of the leaching field. An impervious barrier will be installed around 3 sides of the leaching field, given its location. Erosion controls will stay staked in place and will be the limit of all work. This is, again, a buffer zone activity, but it triggered the NOI because of the leaching field being closer than 50 feet to that bordering vegetated wetland. Recommendations: the Westport Conservation Commission should approve the leaching field and the pump chamber in the buffer zone with standard conditions with a negative box 3 determination. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions? Audience?
This is an NOI, does it?
Oh, no, there is no negative. You are right. I'm thinking of determination.
Yeah.
See, I'm so used to doing determinations. I apologize. That's just with standard conditions.
With standing conditions. Okay. Any discussion? Questions? No? For a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Jake and Phil. Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Unanimous. All right.
That's it. You can go and watch the game.
You don't have to go.
You go now. Yeah, you don't have to go.
Thank you.
Here you go, Bert. Okay, next we've got William Kudo, 67 Cornell Road.
I only put that there for the bigger guy there, Ed, so, no, not you, but if you would tell me where that would be best to put over there. Not you, Lynn, I'm talking to each one.
Okay, Len Carter, Westport Environmental Design, and Bill Kudo, 67 Cornell Road, septic system repair. The existing lot has a wetlands on the east side, shown in green here, flags 100 through 103. The resultant buffer zone, 50-foot buffer is shown going right through the septic tank, closed pump chamber. 100-foot buffer zones out here. I pushed the system out as far as I can in the buffer zone. 2/3 of it is inside the buffer zone, 100-foot buffer, and about a third is outside. The lot goes steadily uphill, so that's why you need the pump. The water table was reasonable, about 74 inches, and had a good perk rate. But because we're operating in the buffer zone to that wetlands, we filed the RDA in order to be allowed to repair that septic system. The system will be at the closest point 71 feet to the wetlands edge. That's pretty much it. There's no expansion at all.
Thanks, Lenny. Members, Mr. Chairman, this is William Kudo, 67 Cornell Road. This is a request for determination filed by Westport Environmental Design with Len Carter here representing. The report date is October 16, 2018. The site visit was also on October 16, 2018. Description of the work: the applicant filed a request for determination to repair the sewage disposal system on the site located at 67 Cornell Road. Wetland area exists on the east side of the property. Flag number 100 through 103 are shown on the plan. Wetland flags were determined to be accurate as shown with no changes made. The existing leaching pit is located in the rear of the home, will be pumped and filled. 2 1,000-gallon tanks will be installed, one as the pump chamber and one as the holding tank. The leaching field will be constructed within 71 feet of the bordering vegetated wetland at its closest point. System will be level with the existing grades. Erosion controls are shown staked around the BVW to prevent any siltation. Resource areas to be impacted is the buffer zone. Recommendations, the Westport Conservation Commission should approve with a negative box 3 determination and contingent on the Board of Health's approvals. I think that has been made now, though. That's all.
Okay. Any questions from the audience?
So I just don't recall, and I wasn't sure from your description, is the soil absorption system outside the 50 feet?
Yes.
Okay, but some of the septic tank?
The tank, existing tank and the proposed pump chamber are within 50 feet.
Right, okay.
And the existing leach pit is within 50 feet.
Okay, but that's being filled,
That's gonna be removed.
right, but the leach field is
again,
outside of the...
71.
Yes, that's the 71, is outside the 50, okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, not for me, anyway.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
I move we approve this with a negative box 3 determination.
That's Bert.
Second?
Okay. Phil? Those in favor?
I-
Opposed? All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Pedro Texera, Anorad, Route 88 in Sullivan Drive. Determine if areas depicted on plan are accurate.
Use your green card, sir.
Okay. You have your green cards?
We have a copy of the white slips, and I did bring green cards as well.
Perfect.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is David Mackel, Kelly Engineering Group. We prepared, there's all the green cards that came
Thank you.
back, and there's a copy of all the white slips. We prepared the request for the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for the subject property read into the record. The address is 0 Route 88, but it's actually located off what we call Sullivan Drive. I have a zoomed out copy of the map on the area photo here just to get us orientated. Route 88 comes across the page here. This is Briggs Road where you would gain access. Sullivan Drive parallels Route 88 to get down here to get access to the property. The property was here when Route 88 was constructed. This is Sullivan Road, is the road that was created by the state to give access to these properties. The property is shown on the assessor's map number 31 as lots 5 and 6A. It totals approximately 43 acres or so of land. We hired Ecotech Environmental to do a delineation of all the wetland resource areas on the property, and those have then since been surveyed and we filed for the ANRAD. On this page here is a little more zoomed in. The property is circled here in red. We have the 2 fields I've circled in yellow that you can see on the aerial photo. The green lines are the bordering vegetated wetland lines. There is a river that comes through, unnamed river that we have delineated the bank of both sides down the middle, and these would represent the approximate riverfront area. In addition to the bordering vegetated wetlands that we've described that are all adjacent, that are all associated with the intermittent stream, there is one isolated wetland in the center of the property that is isolated due to, I believe, groundwater probably breaks out of the ground right there. One thing that I don't know if was read into the record or made the staff report, when the wetland scientist hung all the flags, not all of them are on the property, so we're specifically requesting that the commission only give us the ANRAD for the flags that are on the property. We are using ones that are off property to establish buffer zone areas only. If the landowners want to take flags down or have some other line approved and some other time, we're not wishing to lock any other properties into a wetland line, but we didn't know we were off the property. We surveyed them, found out we were using them for buffer zone only. It's stated, I think, on the record plan, and we just don't want to make sure that we're not delineating properties that we don't have authority to. I believe the agent has walked the line this time. We use Ecotech for most of our lines, and they very infrequently get moved, and if they do, it's not by much. So we feel we have the proper resource area delineation, as opposed to going straight for the notice of intent or another project. We have filed the ANRAD at the recommendation of the agent. I believe we have a DEP number back. Can't recall it off the top of my head, but it did come in the other day.
Yep, we got it here.
And I think for this purposes of tonight's hearing, I think it's pretty straightforward that the line has been identified by the wetland scientist and also reviewed by the conservation agent.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members, this is Pedro Texera. Sullivan Drive is the address. Type of filing is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Kelly Engineering Incorporated is the engineering firm of record. The report date is October 19, 2018. The file number issued for this project is SE802403 with no adverse comments. Site visit was on October 15, 2018. Detailed description of the work. The applicant has filed an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to determine the extent of wetlands on the property. The property is located at the end of Sullivan Drive. It contains approximately, I thought it was 35 acres, but he has said 43 acres, and is shown on the assessors as map 31, lot 5. The parcel is bordered by Route 88 to the east, Mouse Mill Road to the south, and Briggs Road to the north. The site currently has large fields with a vineyard, and the south portion of the property is all currently wooded. The property is divided in half, roughly, by an unnamed perennial stream, as David has shown you. The wetlands were delineated in the field by Ecotech Incorporated. The wetland flag series are as follows: A1 through A98, B1 through B84, C1 through C19, D1 through D4, and E1 through E20. The riverfront area was delineated with flags RA1 through RA23 on one bank and RB1 to RB34 on the opposing bank. DEP data forms have been provided to support the delineation and are included in their application packet. The wetland flag series were walked and determined the representative flagging is conservative and no changes were needed. The E1 through E20 is shown correctly as an isolated vegetated wetland. It had no evidence of standing water to meet the criteria to be an isolated land subject to flooding. So I agree as it is represented there. Again, there was no evidence of leaf staining, or even, it's on a slope, there really was no area for water to really pond. It did not have any ponding areas or signs of long-term saturation. The isolated area is on a slope and intercepts groundwater, providing enough moisture to allow the wetland vegetation to be able to survive. No work is proposed on this application, only to approve the wetland and other resource areas noted. Resource areas to be impacted, well, there really is no work, but the resource areas are riverfront, buffer zone, and bordering vegetated wetland. I have no issues or concerns. Recommendations for this evening: given we have a file number issued, the Westport Conservation Commission should approve the wetland delineations as shown and issue an order of resource area delineation. Again, with the notation on that ORAD that the site is subject to the Rivers Protection Act because of that unnamed perennial stream that does flow through the property. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions?
I wasn't clear from your presentation as to whether or not you wanted the board or Chris to do something affirmative in relation to the flags that were off your property or the extent of the delineation, because
My only concern was that we had shown flags on somebody else's property, and they're really not part. They're on the plan, but they're not part of the request. That's the clarification I think I've stated into the record. We just wanted to make sure that the owner of that property isn't handed back this plan and told them that those are your flags, because they're entitled to hire somebody else and have a different look at it.
Right, okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if you were asking us to say something in the conditions about that or our,
When I list, if I may, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, I apologize, that I can list them as, not as I read, but as indicated on where they end at their property.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So it may not be A1 to A98, it may be
Right.
just the areas that are on the
I
property.
think it's the.
Given the state layout, I'm not really concerned about, but he's more concerned with the other potential parcels. Mr. Dean's, his
Yeah.
family owns that parcel, which specifically is the only other one in concern.
Yeah, no, that's
That is
fine.
all.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
Move to approve the ANRAD.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay. Bill and Bert. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Unanimous.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Is there an old mink farm on that property?
No what?
Mink farm?
No, not on that.
No, it's further south.
Yeah, may have been.
Yeah.
Awful Mouse Mill, there was one there, and then there was one across on the high school.
You'd see it from the highway.
That's the one across on the high school.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it's further south.
That's what I said. Want to buy it, foreclosure?
Nope. Okay, Laura Hadley, notice of intent of All Pond, place temporary floats of phyto remedial plants to test extraction metrics.
Good evening.
Hey.
My name is Laura Hadley. I'm here with Professor Chen Liang, here on behalf of the Deval Pond Association. The project has been assigned to DEP file number SE080-2400, respectfully requesting a 30-day test plan permit to install the phytoremediation floats containing Sunshine vetiver Chrysanthemum zizanioides, if I pronounced that correctly, for the 30-day period to float them and test the nutrient extraction metrics. It would be 130 feet perpendicular to the property located at 1H Narrow Avenue. And I'm happy to answer any questions that Chairman or the Commission has at this point.
Okay, we'll let Chris do his report and then we'll...
Sure. Applicant is Laura Hadley with the Deval Pond Association. This is 1 Narrow Ave, notice of intent. Filing, report date is October 19th, 2018. There is a file number with no adverse comments. It's SE802400. Site visit was on October 19th, 2018. The applicant has filed on behalf of the Deval Pond Association to install a phyto remediation technology float system to remove excess phosphorus and nitrogen from Deval Pond. The float systems will utilize Sunshine vetiver grass as the plant species to extract the nutrients. The proposal is filed under 10.05 in parentheses 11 as a test project requested for 30 days. The plant chosen is not considered invasive and is acceptable to use based on the USDA's determination. Sunshine vetiver is a non-fertile and has no seed, therefore it cannot propagate and spread except within the individual plant's growth itself. Researching and testing performed, it shows that one plant of vetiver grass is capable of removing nutrients up to 75% at a concentration of 5 parts per million. This was in a test in 3 weeks in 3 liters of water. Deval Pond is an 103-acre great pond and contains approximately 196 million gallons of water. Deval Pond is approximately 75 miles by 0.25 miles wide by 5 foot depth is where I got that 196 million gallons. Using the information from the Deval Pond Association's testing, this was done in their most recent round, I think in 2009 by ESS, yes. They estimate that 0.41 milliliters of phosphate exists in one of their testing protocols that they did during that time. Based on that 196 million gallons in Duval Pond, in order to achieve and going over the hurdle and acquiring or removing enough nitrogen, you would need approximately 192 million plants to get this job to be done. Given this, in my opinion, I would think a smaller pond would be a better choice in performing this test. But again, she is here before us with this 30-day particular project. So, given that, the resource areas we've backed here is Duval Pond. I just want to remind everyone that Duval Pond is a great pond, and it's subject to waterways regulations based on it being a great pond. So I have conceded with being cooperative through the board. We sent Mrs. Hadley some concerns that we had. First of all, conditions in this recommendation was that the UMass professor sends a letter indicating his involvement and will monitor the project as they are the professionals in the field. I believe Mrs. Hadley mentioned that the professor is here this evening.
Yes.
I would ask that maybe we provide some sort of documentation on UMass's letterhead to show that he is actually working with the university in this project. But I also included some suggestions for the board. First of all, under the 10.05 filing, 11B1, it requests laboratory results be provided in corresponding to assure that this works. We didn't really receive any prior sampling rounds from what was done on the other plants. I would like to see a monitoring plan, an emergency removal plan of some sort, whether it's in writing or not. This time of year, the winds are very significant. This past weekend, there was significant whitecaps coming across with that north wind, so it would be pertinent that there be some method to make sure that these don't break free and in turn maybe not be recovered. Number 3, this would be approval for 30 days to use the sunshine vetiver grass, and I want to be specific because there are other varieties that can be fertile. In Duval Pond, 5 floats with 8 plants per float maximum. 4, while a butter notification may not be required for this test project, as we all slightly have learned in a sense, you should consider notifying all of the Duval Pond Association members of the pending project. We received an email today where she did and has sent out word to the members about this pending project and their support. 5, any further expansion beyond this test project must be filed under an ecological restoration project. And as I mentioned, being a great pond, it may be needing a waterways approvals as well. And 6, I would ask the commission, seeing that she has followed through, that there be a vote to remove the enforcement order. So I also included some information on the vetiver grass in respect to its use in other areas, not so much in the United States. There are more recent stuff, but most of the studies they've done is in foreign or European countries. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any discussion from the audience?
Fish and Wildlife notified in this thing? Department of Fish and Wildlife?
No, they were not.
Is there a reason why they weren't notified? I know, I'm just asking the question because when you do Great Pond docks and everything, you have to notify them.
I can inquire, but the state gave a file number with no adverse comments in respect to that, so I guess we can inquire with the Fish and Wildlife. But I think in this case, if it's just this test project, I think I'm okay with it. But if it's proposed to be increased in size and in that type of use, I think then absolutely should make sure that they are subject to waterways, as you indicated, as a float would be shown.
I mean, I have comments, but I'm interested in what Ms. Hadley and Professor Wang?
Professor Yang.
Yang has to say. I mean, in response to the conditions that Chris proposed.
All of the conditions sound fine, more or less. The monitoring plan, when I was reading the outline, essentially it's get in a boat and pull it in. It's really easy and really simple. We will be monitoring and documenting the height of the plant growth and making sure that they're stable at least every few days, if not more frequently. And if there are any potential issues, emergency situations, we can take them out immediately. We have several boats that can handle both the volume and weight and whatnot.
Is there a potential that the plants in the 30 days could actually become rooted?
No.
Okay.
The depth at that location is well, at this point, it's approximately 7 feet. During mid-August, at its lowest point, it's generally no less than 5 feet. And the plants so far that we have in other locations and in the lab, none of the root systems could potentially get down that deep in the short period of time that we're discussing here.
So so on the one hand, in the information that you've presented, which I've, tried to go through and did a little bit of my own research, I think if you want to call it the technology, has been demonstrated, in various locations for lots of different purposes, and related to phytoremediation, but sometimes it's in wastewater, and it seems like the performance, I've read things that say, phosphorus removal, has not been that great, and other things that say it's good. It's hard to tell, which I think gets a little bit to Chris's point, which is, in my mind, which is, are we approving this test on the basis that we believe the results of the test will provide a scientific foundation for you to come back and, as you want, and do something much bigger? And I don't feel like I could make a finding about that. That's not what, if I approve the project, I wouldn't want it to be presumed that I thought this is going to give us the information that we need to go to the next one. But I did, talk to folks at DEP, to wetlands folks about it, and I think their opinion was there's no harm that's associated with this. I think if what's suggested by Chris is if there is monitoring and the grass is sterile, and so the potential that there would actually be an alteration of the resource area is vanishingly small. So this project is also in its spatial, it's pretty small, and I agree it is kind of a concern, and certainly be for Great Pond if you had something out there that was so big people couldn't boat on it. You'd probably have to go to the harbor master because you'd have to have secured essentially moorings all over the place and all that other stuff. But so I think it all would have been a lot better had we started not in a reactive mode from the beginning, but in a consultative mode. That would have been good. So anyway, that's what I have to say. I don't know if, just let other people speak.
Okay. So I think we all did a fair amount of research on this. We wanted to get this one right. So this was
Thank
in
you.
the
I appreciate it.
U.S. Department of Agriculture Plant Guide. Vetiver grass is listed in the Global Compendium of Weeds. Vetiver grass genotypes that produce viable seeds exist in certain areas and countries, such as the Caribbean and Australia, and are considered invasive weeds. Skip down a paragraph. A concern is that people may order vetiver grass plants over the internet or by mail without knowing that fertile strains exist and accidentally import one of these. Real concerns for most areas. So what guarantee do we have that we don't have one of these oddball strains that actually can reproduce?
So the source that we purchased the plugs from is a US-based licensed producer of this particular strain explicitly for phytoremediation purposes.
Okay.
Well, Phil, you seem to say that you wouldn't want to approve this, and therefore, it automatically would approve a bigger thing. I mean, this is a test project, so they'd have to come back with us, here's what we found, is it worth it to do bigger or not?
Right. I mean, I guess I wouldn't start from the presumption that if they got certain results from this, that I would conclude, that they've established a scientific basis to, to make it larger, because I mean, part of it relates to what Chris, was saying, which is how do we associate the data that we collect with the outcome that it will result in successful removal of phosphorus and algae, and I just, so that's the missing part. Maybe it's in the lab test results, or maybe something that the professor would be able to say that if you get this result here, then we can scale it up like this and we'll get this result. And I just, I haven't connected those dots in my mind.
We'll have to.
So I agree with Phil, although we're not here tonight to determine if it's going to be valuable research data down the road.
Right.
But the algae counts and the nitrogen and the phosphorus counts in that pond are going to decrease because of the time of the year. People are buttoning up their summer homes. They're not using chemicals on their lawns. Algae dies off. So if you put these plants in the pond, you can rest assured you're going to get the results that you want, because nature would do that anyway this time of the year. There are no controls over any aspect of this. You're putting too few plants in too much water at a time of the year when you're going to get the result that you want this year, next year, with or without plants. It happens every year. And then next summer, the algae is going to increase. So will the phosphorus, with or without the plants. So I don't think that you'll be able to extrapolate any finding from this 30-day study to carry over to anything down the road.
So what is important to consider and understand is that the way that we quantify the data is using a process in the lab. I believe it's UV phytospectrometry.
That'd be great, yeah.
Could you-
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
opportunity. This kind of project to me is very simple.
Could you just for the folks at home, just kind of introduce yourself and give people just a brief.
My name is Chen Lu Yang. I teach at UMass Dartmouth Environmental Engineering, and I also work as a research engineer. I have labs in the building across the street of Weiss. We used to call ourselves Advanced Technology Manufacturing Center there, and I do have quite a lot of projects out there all the time, constantly. And this project is very straightforward for us, right? For everybody to see, you have a lot of microalgae there. And now, 10 years ago, I began to work with Mr. Harvey. He is the chairman of the association. He said he has a problem. And then I said, an environmental engineer is just like a doctor for the pond. So I said I have to go there to do some work in order to find what's going on with the pond. So the next 3 years, from 2009, 2010, and 2011, 3 years, I arranged a student in the summertime to do a summer study for 2 months to constantly taking a sample in and to analyze what's going on. And we find this excessive of phosphorus. Also others, nitrogen also too much, but phosphorus is the control elements. And so we come up with this conclusion. And Mr. Hartley says, I want to be more confirmed about this. So he ended up with a higher engineer firm, ESS, to do another study. And we found the same conclusion. Actually, my result is about like 85 microgram per liter ppb. And usually, if you have algae bloom, it's above 50 ppb, you will have algae bloom all the time. But that's the pond is about 85. But when ESS do the check, right, they actually end up finding it's more than 200 ppb. And so after that, then I do a recommendation, do a study and recommendation to the association. Says this is what we can do. In the beginning, I'm an engineer, so I propose quite a few engineering methods. They say it's out of our reach, it's going to be too expensive, and also you have to do grading all those things, it's going to be big, disturb the whole pond. And then I said maybe we can do something more subtle. But if that's the case, then we will have to prolong the situation. And that's why we come up with this idea, like phytoremediation is very subtle. Nobody can even see that. And actually, you make the pond pretty. You build a few platform, and then on top of the platform, you plant something nicely, and then you flow there, right, like an island, like a garden nature, right? And then you say, is this going to work or not? It's very simple. You say, okay, I check the water quality concentration. I can constantly check that, and then relate to the algae growth, right? And you don't actually need to do that because plant grow. When they grow, then phosphorus is one of the essential elements for the plant to grow. Mm-hmm. So usually, any kind of plant, you can analyze it. You know how many percent of its biomass is phosphorus. It's a constant, more or less it's a constant. For this flavor, it's about 22%. So that's easy. I put the plant there. When they grow, I know they're taking the phosphorus out of the water. I don't have to worry about it, right? And once it takes enough, then I can begin to see the reduction of the phosphorus from the solution, but from the water. But even before I can tell the difference in this water, I already know once the plant grows, I harvest the plant, weigh it, right? If that's 100 kilogram, then I know 2 kilo. I remove like 2 kilogram of the 0.2 kilogram, that 200 gram of the phosphorus already. And we also do the overall calculation. The pond has about like 600 kilogram of phosphorus, and because it's 85, we had to reduce the concentration lower to 50, right? So if we cut half of it, all we need to do is like remove like 150 kilogram of the phosphorus. And that's very easy. We grow the plant, multiply by harvest the biomass, multiply by 0.2%, and then we know how much of phosphorus gradually every year we harvest some there. And a couple years later, we have to build a pond. That's the idea. And it's very subtle, so when you go there, you see the pond is really
Oh, cameraman, can you just speak closer to the microphone so the folks at home can hear you?
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Any question? I thought this is very straightforward. You just grow this kind of beautiful plant, and the biomass, 0.2% is phosphorus, right? And it depends on how hurry you want to be, right? If you want to have it like finish in a couple of years, then you plant a big area, like 60% or 70% of the pond, right? But this is only grace, right? In the winter time, it's a very think about this. This is like 2x4, make it square and then put pot, right? And you don't even need to put soil. You put the gravels there to hold the plant steady, and then they grow. They suck the nutrient for you. And every time you see they grow, right, each kilogram they take that 200 milligram of the phosphorus. And if you want to very quickly, you have a big coverage. If you say, okay, I can take 10 years to get it right, and then you can do it very solid.
Okay, great. Super, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, and so I think if you do come back, for an expanded version, then it would be good to have a presentation, that kind of lays that out and, you know, and makes the case. And I think treating it as an ecological, you know, restoration project, the criteria will, you know, motivate or will give you direction as to what it is that, you know, we'd be looking for. But I think having a bunch of consultation with Chris in advance would be really helpful, because we're not scientists, and it's hard to, when you send something that's a 140-page report, you know, on phytoremediation, it's like, what am I doing here? I can't read a 140-page report and pick out, you know, what it, you know, what's most relevant to what's in front of me. So I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. I did find a slide, or a series of slides on the EPA's website that details another, they're sometimes called floating treatment wetlands, and there were a few studies that were done out of, I believe it was Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
So I have a couple copies that I'm happy to provide. Essentially, it's just moving the needle down a little bit, and to your point that the algae is going to go away because winter's approaching. That's absolutely correct, and we can still measure the growth rate and the nutrient extraction metrics in the worst season. Frankly, they're going to grow the least, or they're going to grow most slowly at this point in the year. So just to get a sense of, okay, how much can we get out with just these 5 floats, and can we keep moving the needle a little bit?
Okay.
Chris Hadley, my only question was, I know it said you notified members of the Duval Pond Association. Was there any feedback from any of them of any concern with the project?
No, not at all. Quite the opposite.
Okay.
Just across the board, how fast can we get them in, and then from some folks, how fast can we expand this into Saudi Pond? That is not part of our discussion today by any means. We just want to test for the 30 days and see if we can move the needle.
So I don't want to belabor this, but I looked at this online when you sent it, and there is one graph in here that relates to what Chris had raised, and I just, maybe you or the professor can see if I understand this graph. It's the one that's P removal as a function of coverage, and it's this graph here.
Right, so that's using 2 different types of plants, neither one of which we are discussing
Right.
or looking at.
Right. So this is and this is the part about, like, that little knowledge is a dangerous thing, because you're looking, so, you know, x-axis is so the x-axis is the percentage of removal, and the y-axis is, I think, the percentage of the pond, the area that needs to get covered, right? It is represented as the raft coverage. And so in order to remove, you know, 3% of the phosphorus, the raft covers 30% of the area. And that's the, you know, that is kind of what Chris was getting to, you know, which is, you know, and I don't know what I can't translate the micrograms per liter reduction as to how that represents a percentage, but it seems like when you've got a 3% removal and you're covering 30% of the pond with a raft, that gives me pause. So that's the...
And that is absolutely understandable.
Right, and so...
Right, at this point, we're just asking for the 5 floats.
Right, no,
So we can
I
buy
realize
that.
that, So I'm just, I think that's just an example of giving a report and having us read it and saying, well, maybe this raises more questions than answers, because it doesn't have the benefit of the scientist to come and say, well, I'm going to explain what this is or why it's not applied to our situation. So anyway, but thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be quiet now.
And I think that's my only concern with the project is, you know, based on the scope, with 40 plants, and you know, essentially you need 192 million plants to do the job we're looking for. So, you know, you wouldn't have a pond, you'd basically have a field if you had 192 million.
We have-
Some of these I don't have to do it in the season.
Yeah.
It's a engineering parameter.
Mhm.
This one, you have a plan, you have to cover this area, and also if your vehicle grows very fast, then you reduce the coverage. Depends on quite a lot of parameters.
And it depends on inflows.
Yep.
Chair, I
Okay.
think the woman has a question back there.
Oh. Okay, can you just come up to the microphone and just let folks at home know your name?
Tanya Ryden, I was just curious, it sounds like I mean, it's an interesting experiment and a sort of trying to get a technological solution to a human-caused problem, which is a lot of fertilizer probably on all the abutting properties, septic systems that are probably not removing nitrogen. And I'm sure it's out, you know, it's beyond the scope of your approval process, but it would be helpful to know that the neighborhood association is looking at themselves and what they can do to solve the problem beyond doing a little tiny experiment. And you know, there's other ways to approach this, and it would be helpful to know that that's part of the context that they're working from. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I know the town of Westport has a water resource consultant that's coming in to look at the town and figure out septic and phosphate and all that. So I think a lot of those recommendations that you're pointing out will hopefully come from that report, from that consultant, that basically the general population of Westport can, you know, hopefully adopt.
Yeah, and we're using oysters in Cocky's Pond to kind of do the same thing with nitrogen. It's just that we know a lot more about oysters in Westport than we do about this grass. So it's just a level of comfort, you know, that things don't get out of control if we're like the stewards of the resource area. So.
Great.
So I guess I'll move to issue an order of conditions, including Chris's recommendations, to allow the test project, you know, to proceed consistent with the description in the notice of intent.
Chair, do we have to vote on the enforcement order first to remove that? Or
What's the procedure on that? Do we remove the enforcement order first, or?
You
Okay.
can lift it after once she,
Okay.
Okay, so Phil made a motion to, do we need a second?
A second.
Jake second. Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
can I ask just, Mr. Chairman, we give her a start date for 30 days? I don't know if she's prepared for Monday or...
At this
I know
point,
time is more important for the season, so...
so if we lift the enforcement order tonight, any reason she couldn't start tomorrow?
Nope. I just want to make sure we get a date that we're all...
As long as we have an official start date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you
Absolutely.
just notify Chris when you start? Okay.
Is tomorrow good for you? Or you want to use Monday so you can get the apparatuses together? I mean,
The goal is to get them in tomorrow. As soon as we get the green light,
okay.
we want to,
All right.
So just shoot Chris a note, yeah.
30 days starts tomorrow then, fair?
excellent.
Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So now we need a motion to lift the enforcement order.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, sorry.
Jake, Phil.
Okay.
All in favor?
Those in favor?
Yeah, we forgot that part.
All right. Okay, next, Bruce Bohr, 1702 Drift Road, notice of intent.
Good evening.
David.
This is a continuation of Sean Lee for Site Tech Engineering representing Route 4. This is a continuation of a presentation that was done 2 weeks ago in front of the board. There were some things that were asked, and in the meantime, there were some slight changes to the plan. Just to recap, this is going to be a rebuild of an existing house, relocating a system that was approved about 50 feet from the river to a point that's more than 200 feet from the river. A denitrification system, voluntarily denitrification system for the new house that's going to be constructed. All the new house is going to be constructed outside the 100 foot. There'll be no disturbance within the 100 foot riverfront. One of the changes from this plan, from the last plan, was riverfront was measured incorrectly from the first plan from mean low water to mean high, so everything slid about 10 to 15 feet westerly, which increased the amount of riverfront area and changed some of the percentages slightly, but it didn't change the project at all. Some of the things that were asked for at the previous meeting was roof drain infiltration. We've shown the roof drain infiltration. Basically, we've done the calculations, provided that with Chris to handle the area of the roof. Also, what was asked for was the piers, which was going to be in this portion of the house, which is within the flood zone, which happens to be a V zone at that time, so there could be no solid foundation. So we've shown that, indicated the 1x1 piers for that particular disturbance. There is a coastal bank along here. We're not touching that. There's another coastal bank which begins and ends here. We're not touching that. Again, we're moving some of the remedial things. The most important thing was moving the septic system way far away. With infiltration of stormwater, we're looking at a 4,000 square foot, 4,200 square foot disturbance within the 100 to 200 foot riverfront area, which we are infiltrating storm drains, remediation, and doing other things. I spoke to Chris, and he has some other conditions. Some of the other things we're doing is abandoning this overflow cesspool, which was flowing straight into the spring, which was choking off this pond. So this will be a significant change here. And anything else at the board, I'm not sure if there's anything else that would be required. There are 2 wetland systems on either side or outside. Within with the house, outside with the septic system. We've tried to do everything we could to accommodate, but we're up against the property line on the west side, so we've moved everything about as far as we can legally and meet the requirements.
What about the mistake on your plan?
Which one?
The mean high water mistake.
You mean?
You were measuring from mean low.
Oh no, I mentioned that. Yeah, we measured for mean low water, and we slid everything about 10 to 15 feet because we were mean low water. That's my chapter 91 mode, mean low water to mean high water, which is a very significant
I
change.
just wanted you to get to admit to the camera that you made a mistake. And you still didn't. Mr. Chairman, this is Bruce Paul, 1702 H Drift Road. This is a notice of intent. This is a continued hearing from the last meeting. Sean Leach from SciTech is representing. The report of this report is dated October 23rd, 2018. We did receive a file number SE802401 with comments. One of the comments I was kind of poking Sean at was that he was measuring his riverfront area from mean low water. It's supposed to be measured from mean high water. So therefore we had about a 10-foot increase of area and also of more disturbance within that. So the site visit was on October 23rd, 2018. Description of work: the applicant has purchased a property located at 702 Drift Road. It has an existing single-family dwelling with an unattached garage. The new owner has proposed demolishing the existing 1,700 square foot home and replacing with a new, larger home. The applicant has provided revised plans requested from the last meeting, showing roof runoff recharge and sonotube construction for the south end of the home. As Sean mentioned, that is within a velocity zone. DEP has issued a file number and has expressed some comments. Concom should review 10.581 regarding degraded areas. The proposed house exceeds the area currently degraded, and the riverfront appears to be being measured from mean low water, not mean high water. SciTech has revised the plan to extend the riverfront area from mean high water. He has also increased the dry well installation and is shown on plan. And therefore, he has increased the proposed disturbance on the lot to 4,250 square feet, which is 11.3% of the total. The new home will be 143 feet from mean high water. The riverfront regulations allows the following: 1, at a minimum, work shall result in improvement. 2, stormwater management provided. 3, work shall be no closer than 100 feet. 4, proposed work, including expanding of existing structures, shall be no closer than the existing. 5, area proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area, provided the proposed work may alter up to 10% if the degraded area is less than 10% of the riverfront area. And 6, mitigation be provided. So the applicant has shown improvement to the site with the nitrogen reducing septic and roof runoff into a dry well system, meeting the above conditions 1 and 2. The home is further than the existing, which keeps it in compliance with this regulation. The concern is that the work exceeds the amount of 10% allowed. The graded area existing on the lot is 1,750 square feet. That amount is less than 10% of the riverfront area, which is 3,760 square feet. The applicant is required to limit the amount of disturbance to 10%. The applicant has 490 square feet over what is permittable. Doing the math, it is suggested the applicant limit the work to 10%, 3,760 square feet, or provide 490 square feet of mitigation plantings of native species along the waterfront. This is inconsistent with other projects that we've approved, this being maybe a little more disturbance than mitigation rather than we had on the other projects, but I think that is consistent with previous permits issued. So recommendations this evening, the Westport Conservation Commission should require the applicant limit the proposed disturbance to 10% of the riverfront area, or 3,760 square feet as required in the Wetlands Protection Act, or provide an additional 490 square feet of native species mitigation plantings along the Westport River. Also condition no further work will be allowed on the property. They actually have exceeded the threshold, so we really couldn't permit any additional activity on the site, given we are being lenient in what we're allowing this evening. So I think if the applicant's willing to agree to those conditions, I think the board this evening could vote in favor of this proposed new dwelling. Thank you.
We have no problem with the planting recommendation from the agent itself. Currently, there's always discussion about degrading. This is all lawn area right now at this time. There is no vesting of vegetation here and here. There's some bushes over here. So we don't have any problem with providing mitigation plantings to do that.
Great.
So.
And this may, as we discussed, may enhance his existing concerns.
Yeah, I mean,
he has a dock going in, maybe this could be a landscape edge that suits. All right, I'd like the applicants to be aware that we would be working with them in this. It's not a strict set of plants. I mean, as long as they're native species, shrubbery, I'm not looking to destroy their view. However, he would like to work it into the project.
There's no problem with that.
Thank you.
Any questions? No. So I actually have a quick question. If, this may be more directed at Chris, if the applicant is maxing out their disturbable area on the lot, will that affect a dock application that involves some disturbance down the road?
He's already got that all in.
Got it,
So,
okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
basically, the dock doesn't really have much disturbance, except the first 2 piles within, beyond.
Okay.
10 square feet or
Yeah.
whatever.
No,
it is,
So,
I just
yeah.
wouldn't want to
No.
see him
Yeah.
do something now that,
No, and again, we're at 42, it's 10% or up to 5,000 may be allowed.
Yeah.
That's the wording in the
Okay.
act is.
anyone else? Looking for a motion?
I move to approve, subject to Chris's recommendation on mitigation planting.
Okay. Phil and Bert? So, thumbtack. He threw a thumbtack at you. Those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, John, for your cooperation. Mean high water.
Everybody's a comedian.
Engineers never admit they're wrong.
All right, certificates of compliance. I think they're in this one.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The first one we have on the agenda this evening is Diane Crampton, 34 Old Harbor Road. This is a request for certificate of compliance. Site Design Engineering has submitted a request and has also provided a letter stating the work is satisfactorily completed. Report is October 19th, 2018. The file number for this project is SE 802137. The site visit was on October 11th, 2018. The applicant's representative has submitted a request for a certificate of compliance for file number SE 802137, as all work has been satisfactorily completed. The work was for a studio and associated decks onto the existing residence. Area was walked with the new owner and the contractor of record. The area is stabilized and growing, as you can see in the photos. The applicant had a minor adjustment to move the studio forward, further away from the coastal bank. This change is minor and was a better location in respect to the resource area on the site. So I don't feel anything they've done is not in conformance to the current order of conditions. So the recommendation of Westport Conservation Commission should grant a full certificate of compliance as all work has been completed and the area is stabilized. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any discussion? No? Looking for a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Jake?
Second?
Phil? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Where is this? Is this before you get to the fork and the?
The house sits over the Adamsville Landing.
Oh, okay.
So it's just as you get into Massachusetts, right on the hill. As you come up the hill, right there on the left.
That's right, they did a lot of work on that.
Yes, yeah, they upgraded it, yes, in the past 3 years, correct.
Okay.
All right, next one is Westport Power.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Westport Power is going to be continued to the next meeting. The area of concerns I had were not the areas that they addressed in their recent visit to the site. So I still have a couple of concerns of erosion rills that will need to be seeded. So I spoke to the representative, they will be getting to it ASAP. So continue to the November 6th meeting, 2018.
Okay.
Got that on record?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we're allowed to meet on election days.
All right, so do we have to vote on the continuance?
No,
No,
just,
nothing.
yeah, it's
Granted.
more housekeeping.
Yeah,
So.
okay.
The next one we have, Mr. Chairman, is Mid-City Scrap. This is 546, 548 State Road. This is a request for a certificate of compliance. The engineer back in the date was SciTech of record. The report date is October 19, 2018. The file number was SE 802182. The site visit representative present was on the 19th of October as well. The applicant has requested a certificate of compliance for the stormwater ponds installed in 3 locations. The ponds have been in place for approximately 5 years and are seated and functioning as designed. This was just Mid-City trying to clean up some of their permit applications, and I thank them for that. You can see in the photo, these are 2 of the ponds. The 3rd pond I didn't have or couldn't get to show you, but it's very similar in design. These are crushed stone ponds that help to treat some of the runoff that Mid-City and their business does generate. So this is a much better than what was being treated before directly going in. So recommendations, Westport Conservation should issue a certificate of compliance for file number SC 802182 as all work has been completed according to the plan of record. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any discussion? Motion?
Motion to approve certificate of compliance.
All right, Jake?
Second.
Bert? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think we just have bills remaining, minutes.
I think that's
and,
it. Yeah. I'm sorry? I think it's in here.
Anything within that document is in the process.
Yes.
I'm getting paid anyways, it's called direct deposit.
Well, the agent's not good. All right, so.
I owe Jake some money, so I'm gonna get paid.
All right. So we've got WB Mason, looks like $20.80, $50, 44 cents, totaling $71.24.
Move to pay.
Second.
Okay.
Everyone sign that one.
No, this one, there we go, that goes on the table.
Yeah, Bill's
There we
one.
go,
all the
okay.
Payroll
Alright.
dispute.
Forestry Supplies, Inc., 4977.
Move to pay.
And South Coast Media Group, $340.20.
Move to pay.
I'm inventing a second.
I'm good. I
No
signed
one
it.
anticipated, okay. Get those signed and then,
Did you sign, get that letter signed that you have in there, please? Yeah, we have that.
Oh, no, Paul did it, and then he's gonna send it to
Okay,
her.
all right.
the payroll just requires one, right? That's
Just
not
one
just one yet.
signature.
Okay.
And sign the payroll sheets on the other side, that line for you to sign,
No, yeah.
adjacent to my name, that, yeah, exactly.
Move to adjourn. Is that appropriate?
I was just waiting for those to be signed, but I think that's appropriate. For a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. Adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you from the associate member, Ed Hartman.
He's the parliamentarian.
Oh, he's kind of